Ah, Cereza, illustrious and beautiful all around. Today we're gonna put you through your first ringer on this channel, your first survival video, baby girl. And y'all are gonna get thirst trapped throughout this entire thing. I don't care what y'all say. Y'all already know what this channel's about. I mean, technically we do Transformers and, normal stuff, but, I do enjoy thirst trapping y'all because y'all know I just enjoy y'all reactions in the comments. But today we're gonna see if she can go through the immortal weapons, or I like to call them the immortal beasts, starting from Black Widow all the way to Groot. So the rules are simple: standard gear and abilities. Obviously, Bayonetta might cook because she has a lot of abilities here, but keep in mind some of these characters do have a way around them. We will also be giving the characters, their full power along with their beast-like guardians, or their beast-like actually, yeah, they're beast-like deities and stuff like that are giving them the powers and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy that, and without further ado, let's begin. Starting off with Cereza, considering the fact that this is only my second time scaling her, I am still looking for her a way to kind of get higher on the, cosmic pecking order, but I still have her around the multiversal at her low ends and complex multiversal for her high ends. But right now, we're just going to keep her at multiversal just to kind of keep everything, in tier, if you will, all right? But again, Bayonetta is actually, again, ridiculously strong here. For starters, she was able to defeat the likes of Singularity in both his grotesque beast-like state and in his true form. I think his true form, he had help, and was also able to defeat the likes of Chaos, right? These beings are all able to affect the infinite multiverse that she pretty much has, where everything's infinite in size and even having realms containing different forms of time and space. She was even able to defeat Queen Sheba, who embodies the entirety of the multiverse itself. Now, in terms of her hacks and abilities, I actually found out some new stuff here. The fact that she is able to create anything just by with her eyes, and this is like original Bayonetta and stuff like that, and I'm obviously going to use that because, again, still the same character anyway. So she's able to create anything by just simply with her looks, or basically just by looking at it. So she can create barriers. She actually has high levels of magic as well, able to manipulate reality and stuff like that. She has disease manipulation, plague manipulation, and obviously one of her biggest transformations is Madam Butterfly, a giant kaiju sized form that she actually used in a Dragon Ball like fashion to defeat the likes of Chaos, which I swear I'm never gonna get over that. I swear they should have just put Kamehameha on it. Like, just instead of her just like going for like a whole purple beam, she might as well just like did a Gallic gun. I'm just saying. But again, she used this form to defeat characters like Chaos, who again is a multiversal threat. Basically, Bayonetta's fighting everything that's just a multiversal threat. This will also put her at faster than light to immeasurable levels of speed, as again, she is able to fight beings who are able to cross the multiverse within an instant. So again, putting her at faster than light to immeasurable. And again, in terms of her hacks and abilities, she has weapon manipulation based on her two guns, her hair manipulation as well, or follicle manipulation, reality warping, disease manipulation, time manipulation, I'm trying to think of the other ones as well. She has high levels of magic, so she's able to cast things like binding spells, restraint, binding spells, teleportation spells as well. I mean, she could do just about anything she really wants here. Like, there's no real limit to her power. I believe I said disease manipulation, which I feel like that's kind of cheating. Like, I'm just saying that's just, I feel like that's cheating. She has space manipulation and stuff like that. She can also cast protective barriers on herself. She's actually able to resist petrification, so she's able to resist things like transmutation. She would also have those kind of spells like transmutation and molecular manipulation. So overall, Bayonetta is just straight up busted across the board. No pun intended, because I mean, oh my gosh, even the Madam Butterfly form is absolutely caked up. Oh, I'm just so down bad. I'm so sorry, y'all. I gotta get myself together. But I don't think I'm I can't stay strong through this, y'all. Y'all just gonna have to help me. But yep, that's actually gonna do it for Bayonetta, and yeah, now we can move on to the Immortal Eight, which actually won't even take that long, to be honest. So the Immortal Eight, or the Immortal Weapons here, are Black Widow, Daredevil, Wolverine, Loki, all right, Iron Fist, Angela, Storm, and Groot here. All of these guys pretty much scale to each other equally, with obviously a few minor advantages over the other that are kind of just obvious, right? So, with that being said here, how do these guys scale? Well, believe it or not, they actually do scale to the Time Calamity, which is a collapse of the entire Marvel multiverse, thanks to the likes of Scarlet Witch. I said I was going to be thirst trapping, y'all. Y'all don't complain. Y'all already knew what this was. You already knew what was going to happen here when I just started the video. I mean, you already saw the first image, right? Yeah, okay, let's just keep it going. So, with that being said here, the fact that Scarlet Witch herself is confirmed to be able to not only hold all of this together, but she keeps the Calamity from getting worse here. Meaning that Scarlet Witch's whole power, which is basically her attack potency, by the way, basically holds the entirety of the multiverse together. Now, for you standard Marvel cosmology, which I think this should apply to as well, the fact that these are all infinite universes. So again, you could easily get Marvel rivals from multiversal to possibly even complex multiversal. But again, multiversal for simplicity reasons here. So with that being said here, yeah, each of these guys is amped by one of the few 8 deities, or one of the few 8 immortal beasts, with beings like Shao Lao, Shaun the Spider, Xerxes, Howdu, Ba, Zakyu, which is the Vermilion Bird, Ying Long, Ba the White Tiger, and Zonwu, the Black Tortoise. So, each of these guys, as you can see here in this picture, are amped up to a whole nother level, being able to have their powers on a whole nother level. That means their physical strength, speed, and durability are a lot higher. Keep in mind, they all are fast and light, as they do scale to characters like Dagger. Now, with that being said here, let's begin. Starting off this list of heroes, we have the likes of Black Widow. Now, Black Widow, believe it or not, is fundamentally the weakest on this list. However, still a multiversal entity, quite casually. The fact that her abilities do revolve around her being a sniper, her ability to use her close quarters combat to her advantage, and the ability to kick and stun just about anybody in the game, even characters stronger than her, like the Hulk, Magneto, or pretty much any tank in general. Now, Black Widow's best thing is her Widow's Bite, an ability that allows her to stun opponents and allows her to follow up with her simple rifle blast to be able to knock anyone out with any headshot. She is amped by Shaun the Spider, a creature that revels in the despair and misery of others. So, with that being said here, Black Widow herself is a very simple one for this, for the first half here, since we are going from left to right. She is a very simple one. Sniper abilities, able to stun anybody, and being able to shoot just about anyone. So, how does Bayonetta fare against her? Not gonna hold y'all. Standard, arena and stuff like that. I think Bayonetta actually mid-diffs her. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Black Widow beats her in a gun-to-gun battle. She has far more, I would probably say a far more powerful weapon than Bayonetta's standard, shotgun and rifles. That being her, rifle here, or standard guns and shotguns and whatever she really wants to summon. I think it's kind of crazy that she can summon a lot of stuff here. However, Bayonetta not only outdoes her physically, but just outdoes her hacks wise. She has way too much elemental manipulation. She has teleportation, summonings, like she can summon a giant haired dragon when she goes fully semi naked and stuff like that. Dear Lord, I swear Bayonetta was Gunner content back in the day. But again, Bayonetta herself just has vastly too much for Black Widow to really be, I guess you could say, hanging with for a long period of time. So, believe it or not, she actually is going to get mid-diffed on this list here. However, if Bayonetta tried to actually, play to Widow's strength and try to do a gun-on-gun battle, I think Widow would just outdo her because, again, she just has a lot more experience in that field. And with her training, I feel like she would definitely be able to outdo Cereza in this kind of department. But overall, yeah, Black Widow's moving on, mid-difficulty at best. Daredevil's the next one on this list, and this is where we get from that mid difficulty to high difficulty. But again, I don't think it's really too much for Cereza. Now, Daredevil himself, being one of the newer heroes to Marvel Rivals, actually does have some good abilities. For starters, he can parry just about anything, even ults like Magneto's Grand Slam. You then got Iron Man, Super Repulsor Blast, and stuff like that. You know, he can parry just about every special move that's not too physical. Even being able to parry Iron Fist with his ult, I find that absolutely crazy. But again, he's actually amped by the dragon Yin Long, which actually gives him a large majority of his superpowers and the ability to drain the life force out of his opponents. But again, he cannot replenish his own with that ability, which again makes him one of the more balanced duelist that could have had that, mind you. So how does Cereza fare against Daredevil? Oh, and keep in mind, Daredevil does have a passive ability to where he can pretty much find you even when you're invisible. So again, Psylocke, Invisible Woman, and Loki mains, yeah, it's just, you're gonna have to adapt to that. I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do about it. Plus, he's literally blind. That's kind of his whole thing, where he can just see you even if you are invisible. That's kind of his whole thing in comics. So how does Bayonetta do against Daredevil? In all honesty, I think she actually does pretty great. A lot of her projectile attacks are actually going to be kind of nullified here. Plus, I do think she can get away from Daredevil's life drain ability because of her speed being equal to his. But again, it's very possible that that might even work, because Daredevil can also use his stuff to kind of grapple and launch himself at his opponents. So what is Cereza's best bet to really beat him? In all honesty, this is where she's really just going to have to lean into her physical superiority. Yeah, I know, it's actually crazy. But again, she can't use her own invisibility, which I actually found out as I was making this video. She can't use her own invisibility. She can't use her own weapons and stuff like that unless she actually plans to outlast Daredevil. Which again, I feel like, you know, stamina-wise, you really can't determine that with video game characters unless it actually shows it. And again, rewatching some of Bayonetta's gameplay, I don't really think I saw a stamina bar in that. So she should have like a decent, if not infinite amount of stamina, just like the Marvel Rivals characters. But again, it's just, I don't see her losing because she can just physically overpower Daredevil. But again, I do think she is going to be in for a very long fight. But again, yeah, Bayonetta gets to round 2, definitely high difficulty. Number 3 is Wolverine, and this one is very interesting. Bayonetta no longer possesses the physical aspect, or basically, she's not the strongest person here. Wolverine may be a DPS character in Marvel Rivals, but again, he does have the strength and ferocity to actually be able to take out tanks. So I'm not even going to begin to specify on why that's absolutely ridiculous and dangerous. So with his Berserker Rage and his regenerative healing factor, mind you, I think this is actually going to be a bit of a problem for Cereza, and the fact that he is amped by the deity Haldu as well. This is actually going to amplify his strikes and likely give him, I guess you say, more of an amp to his Berserker Rage as well. They might say, okay, Legendary, how does she get past this one? Well, believe it or not, it's gonna have to be a combination of a lot of her affection abilities. Now, keep in mind, while Wolverine's healing factor is great in Marvel Rivals, it does not make him unbeatable, if you get what I mean. He does have limits. And again, Bayonetta's going to be in for the long haul. She's going to have to use a lot of her teleportation, her long range attacks, which she can actually now use to her fullest capabilities, including her elemental magic. I feel like her disease manipulation would definitely be the best way to wear down Wolverine, but again, his healing factor is going to kick in. However, I do think she's also capable enough to take him down before he really gets into that whole Berserker Rage. It's very possible she might have to pull like a, what's the analogy I'm looking for? Like an Android 18 versus Vegeta, where she uses like small hit and run tactics. Basically just wear Wolverine down without the real need for him to really get into a flow where he can get his Berserker Rage. So if he does have that, he should be, she should be able to get past his healing factor. Plus, with all the augmentive or elemental attacks she can do, she can easily burn him and just keep it up on him. She could easily freeze him. She can easily entangle him and stuff like that with her magic. I do think Wolverine is probably the most dangerous one she could go up against in a close quarters fight. He could definitely close that distance too, don't get me wrong. However, it's also possible she could just go into her Madame Butterfly form and just start pulverizing him, or just hit him with that black Kamehameha and it's pretty much over. Next off, we have Loki, and this one is going to be tricky for Bayonetta on multiple reasons. Loki basically has the same amount of hexes as her. He can teleport, he can clone himself and stuff like that, but one of the few things that's going to be tricky is really her being copied by Loki. See, Loki can just copy whatever he wants in this game. Doesn't matter if they're technological, doesn't matter if they're whatchamacallit, they're technological or inorganic and stuff like that. Yeah, he can copy it. And with the amplification that Zaku or the Vermilion Bird pretty much gives him, his magic is also much higher, including the likes of fire magic as well, which would be a part of his arsenal. Not in terms of the game, but again, in terms of what he has via lore. Now, keep in mind, the best thing Bayonetta can honestly do is wait till the copying ability simply goes off. Now, again, Loki can use her powers just as good as she can. So that is where the entire thing is going to go awry for her. And again, she could possibly lose here. Loki's regeneration, invisibility as well. And, again, he has all the hacks and abilities and even the weapons that she would have. So this does mean that, Bayonetta's going to be really fighting herself. And honestly, I feel like there should be nobody who knows her like herself, right? So imagine them going at it, summon for summon, bullet for bullet, magic for magic and stuff like that. And again, Loki might just outdo her, just adding her hacks and abilities to his own, because that's just how he is. But again, there's a limit to how long Loki keeps it. So once that limit pretty much just exceeds itself, I definitely feel like Bayonetta is going to really get a hold of him. But again, his clones are going to be a factor. The way he is, the way he's mischievous and stuff like that. I feel like Bayonetta may even go into her Madame Butterfly Madame Butterfly form, tongue twist. Madame Butterfly form, and just straight up nuke the area. I feel like she would definitely do that to a certain extent. And again, if Loki does it, again, that is going to be a problem. But again, I can definitely see Bayonetta pulling this off. But Loki's going to be one of those high to extreme difficulty kind of matchups where she's going to really have to play into her bag of tricks and arsenal and just really have to beat herself. Number 5, I have Iron Fist, Lin Li, amped by the deity Shao Lao. Now, this is actually going to be a pretty interesting one because he can match her physically. Plus, with a large majority of his chi-based attacks and stuff like that, I feel like this is going to be the hardest one Bayonetta has to do. Plus, he can amplify his chi to where he can create a mystic barrier and kind of just deflect a large majority of his attacks, even being able to deflect physical blows very well. So again, he's an absolute monster. But again, unfortunately, Daredevil can parry his ult as well. I feel like that's ridiculous. And then we also have the fact that he can also create a healing field around him, run on walls and stuff like that. And again, can pretty much just do whatever the others I just mentioned do. Like, he's far better of a martial artist than they are. Probably minus Daredevil, because again, Daredevil did train him. So with that being said, how does Cereza do in this fight, especially with him being amped by the deity Shao Lao? Now, this is actually going to be a very interesting fight, as I do believe Bayonetta is going to try to hang with him physically. I do think physically she is still stronger than him, because again, he's not in that Vanguard class, but he can definitely beat up a large majority of the Vanguard class. So this is where Bayonetta might even lean into her more melee combat weapons, like her swords, and I believe she has a few like daggers and stuff like that as well. So it's going to be a very interesting Definitely a very interesting battle. And again, I feel like that chi parry is what's really going to get her the most. So she may just fall back on a lot of her other tactics. But again, I do think because of her wide range of tactics and abilities, this is actually going to be eventually, and again, I'm saying this again, eventually overwhelming for Iron Fist. So that's honestly the best way she's going to have to go for in order to win this match. Number 6 is where we actually get into someone who could physically match her and even beat her. Angela. Angela's just as skilled as her and just as tough as her. And in all honesty, I think her flight capabilities does give her an advantage. So Bayonetta's in for a very, very good slugfest with Angela, especially with her spear and her own axe blades as well. The abilities of flight and the fact that she can block just about anything Bayonetta can do. Like it's actually going to be pretty interesting how she actually has to deal with Angela, especially not in a close quarters range, but in a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Controlled environment. Because again, Bayonetta could summon whatever she wants, can pretty much manipulate the battle however she feels like she has to, right? But, hear me out. But the problem with that is Angela here, is what I'm trying to say here, could simply physically overpower it, block it, and just keep on trucking. That's the big problem here. So what is Bayonetta's best bet, right? Is it the Madame Butterfly? Yeah, I do think it is a very good way to try and overwhelm Angela with a lot of her hacks and abilities. However, I think the best she could actually do, and I'm probably going to say this, and I probably said this a lot during these parts here, but it's definitely going to be her disease manipulation. Well, Legendary, if Angela can block it, what's that going to do? Hear me out, right? So I do feel like the best way to do it is during the exchange. When Angela gets close and she's attacking, Bayonetta is going to have to whip out her sword, no diddy, and actually start fighting with her. But again, she's going to have to be able to get a very good blast of her disease manipulation on Angela. Once that happens, I feel like at that point, all she really has to do is wear down the match. She's going to have to play a long game on this one. But again, Bayonetta does have the better battle intelligence, okay? She's got the arsenal to do it. And again, she could easily augment her weapons with the disease manipulation because she can do absolutely whatever she wants. Number 7, we have Storm. Now, this is actually going to be a very interesting one for Bayonetta because Storm here is not physically strong. Again, very good powerhouse, very good range to where she's at. Believe it or not, I feel like she's not talked about as much in the Marvel Rivals community because she is very well balanced. Like she got her assist game on point, she got the defenses on point, and she's able to manipulate entire storms. And is confirmed to be able to do with a large majority of the other elemental characters can do in the game. So Storm is actually amped by the Manticore or the lion deity Zisha. Now, this actually gives her a much higher level of electricity and her new blue, or I probably would say indigo lightning, if you will, which is much stronger than her regular lightning. So basically magically amped lightning or something of that kind of caliber, right? So how does Bayonetta do against Storm? Now, this is actually going to be interesting. Storm's not the most durable on this list, but she's definitely the most powerful when it comes to the hacks and abilities. She could easily match Bayonetta step for step when it comes to that elemental exchange. However, I do have to note, okay, Bayonetta needs a solid hit on her. And I do think after she realizes that her normal arsenal isn't going to cut it, she's going to have to go into the Madame Butterfly. That way, not only could she endure a lot of storms, hacks, and abilities, but eventually be able to get a solid hit on her. And again, all it takes is about a few hits from a tank to take her out. So someone like Hulk, Thor, and stuff like that. And even a DPS like Magic or whatchamacallit, Iron Fist and Daredevil now. So, believe it or not, you actually have a very good and a very wide range of abilities here. However, with Bayonetta being able to create whatever she wants, I know, probably could have used that for this entire exchange, but again, I kind of felt like it would be boring to say, oh, she could just create this and then be done. Yeah, I do think this is one of the few moments where Bayonetta's own things like reality warping and weapons creation and stuff like that is going to have to be able to play here. Now, disease manipulation could possibly be a factor. I ain't gonna lie about that one here. However, I do think Storm could honestly just redirect that with her hurricane or her wind manipulation. And then, what about her ult? What if she goes into her full-blown tornado, right? Well, I do think Bayonetta's just really going to have to endure that mostly, or just try and get out of the area. But again, I do think Bayonetta does have the actions and abilities and the physical strength to close the distance at least one good time and definitely be able to get Storm and take her out. But again, another high difficulty at best. Now on to the last one. Last and certainly not least, the wall man himself, Groot. This is actually going to be interesting because this is really an offense versus defense type of situation, you know? I do feel like Groot is in a very good spot here to actually be able to beat Bayonetta. You know, I mean, Bayonetta does have the hacks and abilities and stuff like that, right? But again, Groot's defenses is on point. His health gain is also on point as well here. Plus, his ult to be able to restrain her, just about anyone that I've named previously, is actually going to be one of the more fundamental parts of this list here. I feel like Groot as a whole is going to be an absolute nightmare for Bayonetta. And the reason why is because his defenses would actually be boosted by the Black Tortoise known as Zuwu, or Zanwu, excuse me. Now, with Zanwu here basically amping the likes of Groot here and Bayonetta's own magics as well, I do feel like this is going to be a contest of destructive capability versus overwhelming defense here. Basically an unstoppable force and an immovable object, so to speak here. So Bayonetta is not only going to have to try and press Groot to the best of her abilities, but she is going to have to be able to get around those defenses and the unpredictability of Groot's walls, which are known to come alive and attack them once an opponent is near. So, yeah. Can she do it? Believe it or not, yes. I think a combination of her fire magic, her melee abilities, and even the likes of her Madame Butterfly form, I think it's going to be good enough to overwhelm, if not shatter, a lot of Groot's defenses, and for her to eventually get in close, where she likely would keep it so that Groot doesn't try to put up those constant barriers or those constant trap walls and stuff like that. But honestly, that's it. How does Bayonetta do against the list? Well, believe it or not, she does clear, with a few ways she could have lost. Loki could have easily copied and outmatched her. Iron Fist and Wolverine could have easily outfought her, and same with Angela. Storm's long-range capabilities and Groot's overwhelming defense. The only one she would have actually had a good clarity at beating would be the first two, that being Daredevil and Iron Fist. But again, with her Madame Butterfly form, she actually covers a lot of her physical weaknesses, and in all honesty, she does cover a lot of her power disposition as well, and can create an overwhelming amount of overwhelming force, especially with a large majority of her powers and abilities. So, does Bayonetta beat the Immortal Beast Gauntlet? Yes. Yes, she does. And that's going to be all for today, guys. Please comment down below, like, and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day and enjoy the constant thirst trapping I did for you guys here. Peace.